friends, welcome back to another video. This is my 2-month surgery recap video. In full transparency for this video, I am actually not filming this at 8 weeks post-recovery. I'm actually filming this at 10.5 weeks post-recovery. Mainly because I got my math off. Like, I thought that week 9 was actually week 8, and then I thought that week 10 was week 9. All that to say, I'm actually 2.5 weeks ahead of where I would be filming this video normally. So I am only going to be talking about weeks 4 through 8 in this video. And then the last 2 weeks that I've lived will be in my next update. That was really confusing, but I hope it made sense. I also have made some really good progress in the last 6 weeks since I filmed the last update video. So I'm basically just going to be talking about all of that, all of the things that have happened since then. So if you have not seen my 1-month recap, I will link it in a card up above and then down in the description, as well as my craniotomy story video. That explains everything about how the surgery went, my hospital stay, all that kind of stuff. So this is just going to be picking up from that 1-month recap video. So this one picks up at the beginning of week 5, and honestly from about the end of week 5 through week 6, I started seeing really big changes in what I could do, what I'm able to do, and it was really exciting. So week 5 itself was actually really rough. I did have my very first venture out into the world. I did a quick in and out trip into the grocery store. The reason that I went into the store was kind of unfortunate, actually. It was because of another major issue that I was having in my recovery, but I am really glad that I was able to venture out and go be in the public for like 5 minutes. That was a really big deal. That was my first time in 5 weeks going out into the real world, so that was nice. But the reason that I went to the store was because I had been really struggling with sleep. And unfortunately, to this day that I'm filming that is still my biggest struggle. I'm just really having a hard time sleeping. There's a number of reasons that kind of add to that. But the number one reason is I have trouble falling asleep. As soon as I get in bed, I'm like ready to fall asleep, my mind will start racing. I'll start having thought after thought after thought. I have a hard time like turning my brain off. And then leading along with that, I've also had really weird symptoms that I haven't really gotten them like diagnosed officially, but they're very weird nerve feelings that go all throughout my arms, through my legs, and they aren't painful necessarily, but they're very uncomfortable. So sometimes it's tingling, sometimes it's burning, sometimes I feel like I just need to get up and move. It's like the urge to move my limbs, if that makes sense. Like, that's what it feels like. And I get it really bad, mostly right before I go to bed, which is super frustrating when you're trying to wind down and try to sleep, and then all of a sudden your leg twitches because it really feels like it needs to move. So the first night of week 5, I had the worst night I have had to date. I believe I got 4.5 hours of sleep that night, and I was up most of the night. Like, I think I had a really rough night. I tried to go to sleep around like 10, and then my mind was racing, my legs were twitching, all of that till 1:30. So I moved from the bed to the chair, just like a recliner chair, to try to change positions, switch it up, see if that helped. And it actually got worse. My restless limbs, that's what I'm just calling them. I know there is an official thing called restless leg syndrome, and everything I can find about that is basically what it feels like when I have these weird symptom changes. So that's kind of what I'm calling it, even though obviously I haven't been diagnosed or anything. But so that got worse, and then I took my second dose of muscle relaxer. At this point I was on a muscle relaxer medication that my surgeon gave me and said, whenever you are feeling those symptoms, take a muscle relaxer and it'll like relax the muscles. So I took another dose of that at 2:30. Totally didn't work. I tried sleep tea, tried moving around, I tried changing positions, and then at 4:30 I fell asleep for 2.5 hours. And then I woke up, like ding, like a light bulb, and then my mind was like completely awake. And then I didn't end up getting to sleep till 7:30 a.m., so the sun was already up. So I slept from 7 to 11, and that was my night. So basically, that was the worst night that I had had, and I'm like, okay, enough is enough. Like, I need to go get something to try to help me sleep. So that's why I went to the store, and I did pick up a few herbal supplements. I picked up some melatonin gummies, and what was the other thing I picked up? Oh, like a sleepy time tea. And to be honest with you guys, both of these supplements have really, really helped, especially the melatonin. So I've basically, like I said earlier, been struggling with sleep since this point. And so I've continued taking the herbal supplements, and I've actually started incorporating another supplement, which we'll talk about later. And the sleepy time tea I haven't really found to be super effective, but it is calming. Like it tastes good, so I do enjoy that, even though I don't think it has like any superpowers that make you sleep or anything. But the melatonin gummies I take 30 minutes before I am trying to fall asleep, and that works really well to like turn off my mind enough to get to sleep. The problem with melatonin that I've noticed is anywhere between 4 and 5 hours after you fall asleep, it tends to wear off, and then I will oftentimes wake up somewhere around that 4 to 5 hour mark. So the other supplement that I'm going to be talking about later has really helped with the continuation of sleep after that 4 to 5 hours. So I went to the store, picked up some sleep aids because I was desperate at this point. I'm like, medicine's not helping, I can't fall asleep, and it's really hard to heal when you can't sleep. I also started experiencing in week 5 occasional pressure headaches, which are not nearly to the extreme as the headaches that I was having pre-surgery. They're very different. The reason I can tell they're a pressure headache is because they have a very specific pain to them. It's very dull. I almost explain it as like cloudy. It kind of feels like it's all in my head, like all over the inside of my head. I can feel it behind my eyes, so my eyes hurt. I can feel it in my temples, so it'll hurt there. And I had one of those in week 5, one of those pressure headaches, and it lasted all day. I also was taking daily naps at this point because, again, sleep is key, and I found that it was easier for me to go to sleep in the middle of the day than it was to try to sleep at night. So I was getting sleep wherever I could. I had really, really bad tightness in my jaw. So I believe I mentioned that in the last one, in my 1 month update, how I was really having trouble moving my jaw. It actually seemed to get worse between weeks 4 and 6. It just tightened up like really, really tight, and I couldn't even get like the brush head of my toothbrush in between my teeth. It was like that tight. And it's weird because it wasn't even like it was, if I stretch it too far, it hurts kind of thing, like, because I can push through that pain, like that's not a problem. It wouldn't budge past like this much. So, it was really difficult to eat. I could barely get like a spoonful of whatever, mashed potatoes, into my mouth. So it really affected like my diet a lot because it was just a struggle to eat anything really. I did have my first like big burst of energy this week, and by big burst I mean I had like 3 good days in a row, which was really, really exciting. It means that I haven't had enough energy to do something. So one day like I helped Abby edit a video, and by help I mean I just was there while she was editing it. And that was really exciting because it was a little taste of like normal life again. So that was really exciting. I believe I started my Poshmark research that like in week 5. So if you missed the announcement, I did start a Poshmark closet during this recovery, mainly because I needed something to focus my time and attention on when I had good days. and it's honestly been amazing. So I have like a full Disney and Vera Bradley Poshmark closet. I'll leave the link in the description of this video as well. So if you're interested in shopping my closet or really just following me over there, that would be much appreciated. If you're not familiar with Poshmark, it's like a reselling app where you can share your closet of items with others, and then you can kind of shop other people's collections. And so for me, I started it again because I couldn't do a lot of things that I normally would do. Physically at this point, I could not do much of anything as far as lifting or walking stairs or like bending over, like lots of things I couldn't do. So this was something that gave me like a purpose, and it was so great. And I did want to mention, if you're interested in joining Poshmark but you're not on it yet, I do have a link that you can use, a code, which I'll put here on the screen. It's HAPPILYEVERHOPE. And if you sign up through that link, then you get a $10 credit that you can use in my closet, in someone else's closet. And I would really just like to know who came over from YouTube. That's a way for me to know, oh, okay, this is somebody who watches from YouTube. So if you'd like to use that link, I would obviously appreciate it, but it'll also help me to know that it's a YouTube family member who is over on Poshmark. That was a rabbit hole, but I did start doing research and thinking maybe Poshmark is something that I could do. Maybe it's something that would be fun. So that started in week 5 as well. So that was basically it for week 5. Going into week 6, I did start doing car rides more often. I can't remember if I talked about this in my last recovery update, but I've been having a lot of like weird random symptoms that are very similar to like heart rate spikes. So where I'll just be like sitting in a chair kind of like I am right now, and my heart rate would jump anywhere between 40 and 60 beats per minute, which is like crazy high. And then I've had days where it would last 4 hours. Like my heart would be in what my watch calls like fat burn mode, or like as if I was exercising, but I'm literally just sitting still. And that specific symptom sometimes will be as short as like 30 minutes. Other times, like I said, it'll last hours and hours. So in week 6, I had one day where it was like 4.5 hours that it was racing. And at that point, I just started to feel like utter exhaustion, and like I was so tired, it would make my limbs feel weak and like really shaky. And that symptom, again, I've been kind of dealing with off and on for a while in my recovery. And so I'm really not sure what necessarily causes it. I did have that symptom pre-surgery, but it was only in relation to my headaches. So when I would have one of my really bad like migraine headaches, oftentimes nausea, vomiting, rapid heart rate, that would all kind of be in that bubble of a migraine, if that makes sense. So this one, it's really strange when I have these heart rate spikes because they're not in relation to anything else. Like it's not triggered by a headache, it doesn't come with nausea, like really, really interesting when it comes. And I've experienced it through at all times of day, throughout the night. I've actually been woken up in the middle of the night to a rapid heart rate spike, which is so unfortunate because, as I mentioned, sleep is kind of a struggle for me. So to be woken up for any reason is really sad because sleep is so rare anyways. So yeah, I had a pretty big spike in week 6, but I also was doing about 1 to 2 car rides a week. And what I mean by car ride is literally just hopping into the car with someone else who was driving. I still have not been cleared to drive yet since my surgery, so I mean just like tagging along on errands, on like going to fill up the car with gas. I've tagged along to Disney Springs twice, where I've literally just been in the car to Disney Springs and then I sit in the parking garage and wait while others go have fun, and then no, Abby's gone to pick up merchandise a few times, so I'll like ride along with that. But it's really still good, even with just sitting in the car, to get out and for my body to experience different things, because after you've been sitting in a chair or laying in a bed for weeks, it's really different to be able to get in the car and just go be in the sunshine and all of that. So In week 6, it was actually a really big struggle for me because the 2 car rides that I took that week, I had some of these massive heart rate spikes that I think were probably triggered by the movement of the car. And I think it's just because it was something different that my body wasn't used to experiencing after the last like 4 or 5 weeks that I'd been laying at home. And so I really, that kind of was a sign to me to continue trying new things, walking outside, being in the car, that kind of thing, to really get my body used to it again. And something that my surgeon had said is that you need to give yourself time to heal at home, make sure that you're safe, make sure you're not going to blow the blood patch or anything like that. But then after that is you're going to have to relearn certain things. And even things as like silly as getting in the car and driving around, your body is going to kind of freak out the first few times that you do that because it's not used to that. It's not used to the movement and the vibrations of the road. So by doing it more and more, you're going to train your body. This is normal. This is something that is part of life, and it will get better. But those first few times, it's going to be really weird because your body's going to think that that's not normal. So that was, week 6 was kind of the start of that, where I'm like, okay, like, I need to just start doing more normal things in a safe way, of course, but getting used to normal life again. I did have slight incision pain in week 6, specifically after showering, which was a huge sign to me that I was actually starting to regain feeling in this half of my head. So up to this point, everything had been pretty much completely numb, and so it didn't occur to me until I felt slight pain just in the incision, like by being touched, and I was like, wait, I can feel myself touching this. Like, it's a big deal that I had the feeling back. And little by little, over like a week, 2.5 week time, I would just get a little bit more feeling. So right now where I am, or I guess where I was around week 8, I still can only, I can't feel the area that's inside the incision. So a little tiny square right about here is still completely numb, and that's actually where the plate is in my skull. And then everything else now I have feeling. I can feel my ear, I can feel my face, I can feel like everything through here. So it's very exciting to regain feeling back because obviously it's not fun to be numb. And I know some craniotomy patients actually never get the feeling back in their face. So I was really, really grateful that I do have feeling back. But the pain in my shower was like, oh, like now I can feel it. So it was kind of exciting, even though it was slightly painful. I did have another foggy pressure headache in week 7. And that one lasted from 2:30 p.m. till midnight. I wrote down the exact time. And that one I had slight light sensitivity with it as well, which that's actually the very first time that I've had light sensitivity issues at all since the surgery, which was kind of surprising to me because if you watched my very first brain video before the surgery, light sensitivity was one of my biggest struggles. So to not have any light sensitivity for 6.5 weeks after the surgery was very, very exciting. And this one, even though I did have some light sensitivity, it wasn't nearly to the extent that I had it pre-surgery. So, but that was my first time experiencing it since then. And then again, I had another 3 days of feeling really good. So anytime that I have a good day, I just am so grateful. So then to have 2 days back to back, 3 days back to back where I feel good and have very little pain is very, very exciting. I did mark it the end of week 6 that I started just having pain in like the rest of my body. And honestly, I think this comes from the lack of activity and just in recovering my head, the rest of me definitely took a beating. Like in sleeping the same positions, in sitting the same positions, I still can't lay flat. I still have to be raised on an angle in any position to make sure that my head is upright and that my brain is protected. So that of course affects your shoulders, your neck, your back, your hips, like everything else. So I did mention that my hips were hurting, and this is when I started implementing stretching of my legs, and this is really, really minimal. I just do like tiny little hip stretches before bed, and I just stretch each position of my hips. So you may not know if you're just new and following along with my story, but I am a dancer. I've danced for 19 years of my life, a long time. And so I'm very comfortable with basic stretches, just things like your hamstring, and then stretching the front of your hip, the side of your hip, trying to get mobility back into my hips. So I just did very, very basic light stretches to start to increase the blood flow through my legs and make sure that everything continues to move and function. And ever since I started doing that, it's actually helped immensely in lowering the restless symptoms that I was talking about earlier. And I just do it maybe like 10-15 minutes before bed, and it really helps to relax my leg muscles, and I've had less of the cramp, spasm type feelings through my legs. So there's a tip for you guys if you're in this sort of situation like I am. Just light stretching, don't do anything intense, don't pull anything obviously because your body's not used to movement, but just to get a little bit of mobility back into your hips is really, it really helped me out a lot. So then I did start to incorporate more exercise. So again, riding in the car, which I know is not exercise, but walking to the car, walking in from the car. I started doing a little bit of walking outside. Not much because it's so hot here in Florida. Around week 6, it was like in the mid to upper 90s every day. So it was definitely more difficult to walk outside because I would get overheated quickly. And then in an excess of heat is actually one of the things that raises your intracranial pressure. So I was definitely trying to, not go crazy with the walking out in the heat, but I did start walking outside a little bit. In week 6, I also filmed my first video back. So I did a sticker Sunday video, and it was showing my recent Happy Planner haul. I'll link that video if you've missed it. And I was so proud of myself for doing that. So that was the end of week 6. Well, I guess this wasn't my first video because I filmed the 1 month recovery video would have been at 4 weeks. Okay, please excuse. Oh, yeah, so that one I guess would have been my second video because I filmed my 1 month recovery video at 4 weeks, and then this was my first video. Whatever. It was my second video. It was my first sticker video that I filmed since surgery, and that was at the end of week 6. We'll just leave it at that. But I'll link it down below if you want to see it. It was a Happy Planner sticker haul because I had just gotten all of the new fall release stickers, and I was very excited about them, so I had to film that, of course. And that one, it exhausted me. I think it was maybe a 30-minute video, 35 minutes, and by the end of that I was like, that's my big event for the day. So that day and the next day I basically just slept and recovered from that because it took a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to talk to a camera, which I didn't really realize until energy is such a valued commodity now that I'm like, wow, didn't realize how much energy it takes. But yeah, I was still proud of myself for being able to do that. And then I did mention that I had a slight stomach ache and some nausea, which nausea, again, was one of my pre-surgery symptoms. I had a lot before surgery. Actually hadn't had hardly any after the surgery, which is really good. But I did have like a stomach ache with some nausea, which I think was correlated to eating way too much queso. Yeah. I am slightly dairy intolerant, so eating like a lot of cheese dip is probably not a great idea, so I think that's what that was about, but I wrote it down because now I know. Pace yourself on the queso. Okay, week 7. This is where I actually started incorporating, well, I wrote it down for the first time. So one thing that I've been doing every night since surgery is drinking a cup of peppermint tea. So peppermint tea is one of those things that I have loved for a really long time. I love drinking hot tea, But it actually sort of became part of my nighttime routine after surgery. I would take my medication, Abby would brew me a cup of peppermint tea, and then I would mix in my laxative. So I have Miralax powder that I would like mix into the tea, because it's a very important thing when recovering from surgery to not get constipated, because that can cause, again, pressure inside of your head. You don't want to be pushing or shoving in any form, so it can be very dangerous. So I was on it with the laxatives every day post-surgery. The peppermint tea became a huge help, because not only is it peppermint tea, which is really good for aiding in digestion, it also helps to calm the stomach, like at the end of the night. But then adding the Miralax into it, it was a really good way to end the day to help lead into the next day. So that is a really good tip that I would recommend. It doesn't have to be peppermint tea, but you do want it to be something herbal, because obviously you don't want to be drinking a cup of caffeine before trying to go to bed. But yeah, peppermint tea and the Miralax both are huge helps in my recovery. I did have decent energy in week 7. It was actually my first time meeting anyone after surgery. This was my first time meeting up in person with anybody that wasn't my family since the surgery, which was really exciting. We actually got to meet Robin from Oh Hello Robin. We got to meet up with her and her husband Rod and her son Jacob. And we met up with them at Universal. We went to the resort that they were staying at around Universal property and just got to sit and chat with them. And I'm so grateful to the Lord that He gave me like energy that day and stamina to be able to like talk with them, and I just had a really good day. So it was about 2.5 hours, I think, that we went out and just got to chat with them, and yeah, it was really good to see them, and just to get to see anybody, honestly, was a huge milestone for me. So that's why it was really exciting. That was like mid-week 7, I believe. And I also wrote down in week 7 that allergies are real, which is true. I have been struggling with allergies so much since the surgery, which I think that has more to do with the time of year than it does with the surgery, because I had my surgery in the beginning of August, so I've been going into fall and trees and pollen and all of that. So I did have quite a few different days where I had like allergic reactions, where my eyes would get itchy, my nose would run, and I had one where my hands like broke out in like a rash, and I was like, what is happening? My family all has allergies. It's kind of just thing that we deal with. I have actually typically been the least of anybody to have allergies, like mine aren't that severe, but since the surgery I've noticed multiple days where I've needed to take Benadryl because I'm just having allergy attacks. I did order some headbands off of Etsy, so I'm gonna make a whole separate video on my surgery recovery essentials, things that the things that have aided me so well in my recovery. I wanted to share them with you guys, mainly so that if anybody else is going through something similar, it might be a good jumping off point for you to just know what helped me. And I'm gonna actually link specific products in that video, so that if you want to buy the exact same ones that I have, you can do that. So I'll make a whole separate video on that, but these headbands are definitely going to be in that video. They are from an Etsy shop, and basically ever since the surgery, like the first few weeks I was at home and I had nothing on my head, but now basically anytime I go out, I'm either in a headband or a hat or just something to protect my incision. It's not even so much to hide it, because I don't think it's that scary anymore, but something to protect it, because it is like here on my face, like my hairline and my face. So I just want to protect it from like things in the air, from germs, from whatever. It's just nice to have something like protecting it, I guess. So anyway, so I got these these headbands from an Etsy shop, and they're my favorite. I have gone back to order multiple times to order more. You've actually probably seen them in a lot of videos because I've been wearing them for videos. I've been wearing them in regular life. I just love them. So anyways, I will talk about those headbands more in that video. And I guess I'll go ahead and link in this video to the small shop down below that I ordered them from, so that if you're interested in getting some headbands for yourself, you can do that as well. And then I also wrote down the end of week 7, I did my first stair practice. So one thing that my physical therapist in the hospital had told me is once you feel stable enough in your body again, you can start trying the stairs. But she said do them in very small amounts and take it really slow. Make sure there's somebody with you so that if something goes wrong, they can, be there to help. And she said don't try anything crazy like running up the stairs the first time, but just to, again, try to get your body used to the idea of stairs. So I started doing stairs, and by that I mean I would step up one stair and then down one stair, and I would go up one stair, down one stair, and then I would do 2 stairs and then come back down. And so I did that for a few different days at the end of week 7. And the main reason for going so slow is 1, so that you can keep your stability and know what's going on, but also pay attention to how your brain is doing. Pay attention to the pressure inside your head. Does it cause extra pressure? Do you feel like a pounding? Do you hear whooshing? Like, make notes of all of those things so that you know how it affects you. And honestly, it was really exciting that I was able to do the stairs, and I actually did really well. It didn't cause me any pain or anything like that. So started practicing doing the stairs little by little. Again, always having somebody with me. I did but I continued to have weird nerve pain through week 7, which I think I talked about in the first recap, how I was having really weird random nerve pain. That continued. Sometimes I had it in my left ear, which the surgery was on the right side of my head, so it was interesting to have it on my left ear. Sometimes it was like in my left ear, so it felt almost like if anybody's ever had an ear infection and it's kind of like an aching in the inside of your head, that's kind of what it felt like, but it was either in my ear, on my ear, all around my ear. I also had weird nerve pain in the bottom right corner of my head, like down here, almost like where my head meets my neck. And I had so much, okay, I'm gonna give you an example of what it felt like, and if you've ever felt this, then hopefully you can kind of know what I'm talking about. But you know how when you pull your hair like up into a ponytail, and you pull it really tight, like let's say you use like gel and you're just like really have a nice tight ponytail, and then you leave it there all day, so like 8 to 12 hours, and then you take out the ponytail and your head, like your scalp is like, that's what it felt like. So it's like a tight, pulling, burning pain, aching pain, but it was just down in this right quadrant. Weird, right? This was at the beginning of week 8. I could actually fit the toothbrush between my jaw. So I've been doing a little bit of jaw exercises and just trying to get more mobility back into my jaw. But the main thing that I've been doing that has really helped with actually opening my jaw more and more is right before I go to bed at night, and then usually sometime around lunchtime, maybe a little bit after lunch every day, I will use a heat compress and then an ice compress on this side of my jaw. So basically my jaw, the jaw muscles up here, and then where the actual incision is. I've been using a hot compress on it, so I'll just put it on there for 10 minutes. Then I will switch it out for a cold compress and then do cold for 10 minutes, back to hot for 10 minutes, back to cold for 10 minutes. So I'll do it like 40 minutes, again, middle of the day, and then right before bed. And that has helped immensely with recovering and encouraging blood flow through these muscles. So that was one thing that my surgeon told me before the surgery, was that I was gonna have some jaw struggles because they are cutting through the muscles and the nerve systems and everything that are up in this area of your jaw. So that I was prepared for ahead of time. I also wrote on week 8, I had a garage sale adventure. Me and my mom went out one morning and did garage sales. We basically just drove around like looking at garage sales, and then I think we got out at maybe like 2 of them. But it was so exciting because it was something different that my body hadn't done before. And honestly, I think it was one of the best exercise type of things I could have done, because I was riding in the car for most of it, again, helping my body to get used to the car. And then we got out like twice. I think we got out and spent maybe 5 minutes outside, so walking outside. I got to work on my social skills, which I'm happy to say my social skills are still pretty good. But it was really nice to be able to get outside, and we found some pretty good deals. So it was a really, really good day. And then I believe I came home and took a shower after that. So for me, garage selling, riding in the car, and then taking a shower was like a big day. That's a long day. And I was able to do it. And of course, I rested the rest of the day after that, and then I think the next day. But still, very exciting for me. And I actually found out that our little garage sale adventure was a great form of exercise for me. And then, yeah, I wrote that during these days, it was 4 good days in a row. I also filmed my surgery story video, which again, I talked about earlier, but I'll link it in a card if you want to check it out. But I actually filmed that video, which took a lot of energy. I think it took like over 2 hours to film, which was like, that's like a marathon for me, honestly. But I'm so glad that I was able to do it, and glad that I was able to share that story with you guys. So did that in week 8. So I had my first meal in a restaurant in week 8. We actually have a vlog up on that. It was the Contemporary. We went to Steakhouse 71, and that day in itself was kind of a hot mess kind of day, but the actual restaurant, the food was incredible. So I'm so glad I went and got to eat that steak meal. Check out the vlog if you want to see the meal that I had, because it was incredible. But I woke up with a foggy kind of headache that day. Again, it was one of these that I could totally function through, and I actually remember like thinking, should I stay home? Should I go anyways? Should I take medication? Like going back and forth. And my family was so sweet. They're like, if you want to cancel, like we could cancel, we could reschedule, we could do it another day. But honestly, I really wanted to kind of push through it and see what would happen. I felt like at that point I was safe from hurting myself in any way by doing it. I wanted to see what it was like to go out in this sort of headache, because again, I really haven't been out of the house much at all. So I was like, no, I think I want to try and see what happens. So I think had I been in that headache situation, in a normal restaurant situation, I would have been fine. Unfortunately, we got to the Contemporary Resort, and I think Abby talks about this in that vlog, but the smell was unreal. It was so powerful. It's some sort of perfume fragrance that Disney has decided to pump into the Contemporary hotel lobby. I think our guess, this is all speculation, but our guess is that because they're doing a lot of construction upstairs, they were repainting everything, so there was a big paint smell upstairs. So we think that maybe they're pumping in the smell to somehow mask all of that. But when you are recovering from brain surgery and you have light sensitivity and smell sensitivity as your 2 biggest triggers, it was really rough. And I already had a headache that day from I had a foggy headache that morning, so the smell only made things worse. And at that point, we could have turned around, we could have canceled it, but the smell was actually not nearly as bad inside the restaurant. So they did let us in early, and I was able to just sit inside the restaurant itself because it just smelled like food, which of course is delicious. It didn't have that really weird toxic perfume smell, which I'm sure some people think is lovely. It's just, I think a lot of you guys might relate with me on this. If you have any form of allergies, asthma, if you have medical problems where smells really affect you, it's kind of a problem. So for part of the time while we were waiting for the reservation, I just was outside. I just sat outside to like get some fresh air, and then I walked straight into the restaurant, and then it wasn't as bad in the restaurant. But needless to say, the smell kind of put it felt like it put a dagger into my head, was what it felt like. But unfortunately, it did kind of continue my headache through the rest of the day. So my experiment, my idea of kind of pushing through and see what happens, I honestly don't know what would have happened had it been a normal situation. But unfortunately, due to the smells, it did continue to get worse throughout the day. But it was worth it because that steak was incredible, and it was my first time out in a restaurant type situation. So I do love that because it was Disney, it was very safe to do so. They had their social distancing things, and we were in a booth, thankfully, with like our party, and that was it. So I did feel very safe being in that type of environment, but the smell really put a damper on the day for sure. And so then at the end of week 8, the big event of that week was I had my second post-op appointment with my neurosurgeon. And this was actually, I believe, supposed to be a 6-week appointment, because I think the way it's supposed to go is 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and 12 weeks are like the normal standard follow-up procedures. But with scheduling and everything, and the surgeon's schedule, 8 weeks was when we could get in the appointment. And honestly, I'm super grateful that we had that extra 2 weeks before we went to see him, because I grew by leaps and bounds in that between 6 and 8 weeks. And I was able to try out some things like doing the stairs, like walking outside, and kind of see how it affected me. And then I was able to bring that into him and ask any questions that I had. And honestly, it went so well. My neurosurgeon was really happy with my progress. He said my incision looked really, really good. And then he honestly said, like, function-wise, I'm doing super well. He basically gave me the all clear at that point to move from a resting recovery to an active recovery, which means that I can officially start, again, doing stairs. I could start lifting things, because up to this point, I couldn't lift anything except my little tiny water cup. That was the only thing I could pick up, so I could start lifting things. I could start bending over, obviously carefully in slow doses, but he basically said you can start doing like normal life things. But he said, try doing one new thing a day and then see how that affects you and write it down. So that's where I am now. That's where my mission is in trying new things, and at the same time pacing myself and stopping when I'm exhausted and doing things when I have energy. And so that's been where I'm at right now. He also checked in my ear, because sometimes with craniotomies, especially depending on where the location of your craniotomy is, sometimes you can have like internal bleeding or things like that happen inside your ear. So he checked to make sure my ear was clear. It was good. I have hearing in both ears still, praise the Lord, because that also can be something that you just might lose your hearing in one ear while recovering, but I don't. I have full hearing, which is exciting. And the best news, I think, of the whole thing was that my surgeon said, because I'm doing so well and it looked so good, that I actually don't need to go back for my 12-week follow-up, which is like such good news, so exciting to hear. And I know, like, with some other, if you're in this kind of situation and you're maybe at a few weeks into your recovery, I want you to know that, like, I understand where you're at, and I do just want to give you guys hope that it does get better. Obviously, I'm still struggling. Sleep is still not going well with me, but my pain level has gone down quite a bit since my surgery, and that is very exciting as well. I am really honestly grateful for my progress. I am going to pop in a picture right here of what my incision currently looks like, so if you don't want to see that, you can skip ahead just a little bit, but I do want to, in these update videos, kind of keep you guys updated on what everything looks like. So I'll pop up a picture here. So this is what my incision looks like at 8 weeks. So I actually did take a picture, at 8 weeks, unlike when I'm filming this, but that's what it looked like at 8 weeks, which is 2 months post-surgery. And you'll notice, I don't know if you can see in that picture, but my hair growth is coming back in really well, which I'm super excited about. And it's almost getting to the point in taking pictures where it's kind of hard to see the incision, just because there's so much like little baby hairs growing in, which again is exciting. So yeah, but that's where I am at week 8. Like I said at the beginning, I'm actually 10.5 weeks when I'm filming this, so I will recap the last 2 weeks along with the next 2 weeks in my 3-month update. So I will see you guys again in that video. And in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would really appreciate it. We have lots of holiday content coming. We have Vlogmas to do this year, which is gonna look a little bit different because life is a little bit different, but we're still gonna do it for you guys, and I'm super excited. Vlogmas is something that Abby and I look forward to every single year, so really excited about that. But that is it for this update. Again, I will have the 3-month update coming soon, and then I will also be doing that recovery essentials video for you guys as well. But if you liked this video, if you found it interesting, helpful, entertaining, then please give it a thumbs up and hit the notification bell next to the subscription button so you don't miss any of my future updates. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!